Okay, for anybody who's following this home and garden series, basically I've done everything here in the garden. I'm going to get out here at some point and I'm going to pull all these, whatever these are, out, as was suggested by Bonnie, and they'll make a nice composting material. I'm not sure what this is, but it probably needs to come out. It looks pretty painful to me. Anyway, so I water the garden every day with a sprinkler for about 15 minutes in the morning, largely, before the sun comes out too high, because we don't want to scorch the leaves of the plants, because water acts like a, as I understand it, acts like a little magnifying lens. So, still got a bit more weeding to do here. Ooh, there's some pretty flowers right there. I'll finish this later. Just wanted to show you what it's about. But then we bought this poor little blueberry bush. But before I planted it, I waited for it to actually begin sprouting some leaf. You can see right there at my fingertip, there's some leaf coming out. So I planted it yesterday, and hopefully it'll prosper. So I dug a hole about this big around it. The pot itself was about this big. And I went down pretty deep and I put a bunch of organic compostables, raw or uncomposted vegetables from the kitchen, way down low, and put a layer of dirt above that, and then put the potted plant in, which is, as I said, a blueberry. Then I did the same with some rosemary. So we picked up a rosemary potted plant, and we had the blueberry we picked up. And I did the same thing. I dug deep, put a layer of uncomposted organic material from the kitchen, laid some dirt over that, and now we have this rosemary plant in the front, where before, in an earlier video, you may have noticed, there was nothing there but weeds. But now we have another project in the offing, and I'll explain that in a bit. There's Lee's flatbed, and there's Brandon's flatbed, and they're doing something to make living in this house in the summertime and the winter a little more tolerable, and it has to do with the roof. Okay, I'm about to head upstairs here. Nice broad stairs and get up to the second floor. And you'll notice right away we have insulation material. You want to describe this? This is Lee, by the way. Lee, hi. Folks might know him from the observatory project too. So what are we doing here, Lee?
Insulating the outside walls, roof with R21, which is good for excellent insulation for 2x6 framework.
Okay. So the goal of which is, why would anybody bother to insulate?
To either keep things cold or to keep things hot.
And have we succeeded?
It feels like it. This was considerably warmer. You'd have to double check.
I know that I measured the temperatures in here yesterday, and it got to 95 degrees upstairs.
I mean, feel just your hand there alone.
Oh no, this was like a blast furnace before, and now it's got the insulation, and you can see it. They hang it up along the ceiling of this. I call it a wing, and they drop some down. You drop some along the wall there too, right?
Yeah, we pushed it all the way into the bird block area.
Okay, so
and
now.
Also, the other thing we did is bird blocks had a little bit of gaps, so we used expendable foam.
Oh, so you seal in the cracks and gaps.
Yeah, and that was before we put the insulation in. So now there's no air able to get in from the outside.
But the real heat, from my estimation, was the fact that the roof gets cooked and heat translates from the sun. Now, yesterday was partially sunny. Mm-hmm. The temperature got as high as 92, but I found at peak temperature, which was around 3:30 to 4 in the afternoon, in here, it was 95 degrees. Oh. So the house was actually getting hotter than the outside ambient temperature because it was being cooked by the sun.
Right, and retaining the heat. So yeah, and that's the one thing. You have a button board construction, which is kind of like lath and plaster. Mm-hmm. So it's a stone, so it will reflect or maintain whatever the temperature is. If it's cold out, it will retain cold. If it's hot, it will retain hot.
Is that a good thing?
It can be. So that's where it's more important to insulate.
Insulate,
So
yeah.
like in the mornings, this stuff, the stucco stuff will stay cooler inside.
It drags against the increase in the temperature.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it acts as like a capacitor building up the heat and storing it for a
There you
little
go.
bit,
Yeah.
electronics capacitor.
Mhm. Yep.
Okay, so Lee, I see you got a thermometer in your hand, contact thermometer, ambient temperature thermometer, and Vanessa uses this actually to bake with.
Oh, cool.
But it
Okay.
works very well for checking temperatures, especially if you let it sit for about a minute to get into equilibrium with the environment.
Right.
What did you discover there
I
with this? Have you done any measurements yet?
I wasn't able to get an accurate one. Not yet.
What I usually
So-
do is I just set it down. But also
Yeah.
I noticed, Lee, if it's higher up, it's hotter,
Oh, yeah.
and if it's lower down. So what I
Yeah.
do is I rest it at tabletop level.
Yeah,
And I
there you
just
go.
let it sit for about a minute or two, and then I turn on the power, and instantly
Yeah.
it gives me a read. So I'll be back up to see what the
Yeah.
read is. But I think our goal, and we both agreed on this, if these upstairs can stay cooler than the highest temperature of the day, or warmer than the coldest temperature of the
Yep.
day, that the insulation will have proven to be a success.
Oh yeah, definitely. And you probably felt, at least I know I can feel the difference from
like-
this morning, and that was, we started at 9, 10 o'clock in
know.
the morning, and you can already feel the difference coming up the stairs.
You know, it was already 75 degrees in here this morning, and it was the lowest temperature I saw when I got up at about 7:30 was 71 on the thermometer over here
Yeah.
in the fairgrounds.
Yeah.
So it was already warmer than the ambient
Yeah.
temperature outside.
So, yep.
As hardworking as Lee is, he's basically acting in support of Brandon down here. And Brandon is actually doing all the heavy sweating down here.
Yeah,
And you know,
the
it's
fun stuff, all the grunt work.
they did the smart thing. They did the south side, which faces the sun earlier, so
thankfully.
this wing is not as bad. Also, we got this brilliant idea of putting a fan in here and then putting a block of ice right here in front of the fan,
We just helped them immensely.
which really does help, doesn't it? It's pretty amazing. So what basically are, Lee, could you describe what Brandon's doing right now?
Right. Well, right now he's filling in the bird blocks. He already did the foam.
That's that stuff at the base of the
bird,
runners.
The bird blocks go between the 2x6s going straight down,
Okay?
and we put in a bag of you can see the blow-in stuff. We
Okay.
Put in that's over the dormer, and then he even insulated more with some of the scrap stuff.
Okay, so you mentioned
So-
blow-in stuff. That's stuff that's not part of a sheet, and you actually have to stuff it into a
Right.
cavity or something,
Right,
right?
yeah.
And then I can see the sheet over there is kind of like been cut and bent over.
Yeah, it's just scraps that we had left over, and you know you really can't over insulate too much unless you start to make it too dense.
Oh,
If
by
you-
compressing it. If
by
you're compressing it.
if
And that's
in-
folded over
Hold
there
on.
to block
Yeah.
off your porchway right there.
Oh,
That's all
right,
dead
right,
space
right.
there.
Yeah,
You
we
don't
have a
need to
porch
insulate
that
that.
obtrudes to the north.
Yeah.
So he's blocked off the airflow from there. Got it.
So that's you want to block the air, but you don't want to compress the insulation too much.
Okay, got that.
Yeah, 'cause
So-
those are small pieces. They're barely folded in half, just
Yeah.
enough to keep the tension right
So
there.
basically, I've got a couple of pros here doing this job. So I just asked Lee whether the average person, you know, with reasonable manual skills could pull this task off. And your answer was?
Yeah, it should be. I mean, unless you have a bad back or something like that. The key is when you get the right size. When you staple, you want to staple so that your 2x6.
Oh, that's
like
what the
so.
2x6s are
Yeah,
for.
see, that's what it looks like here. This is what they call bat or craft bat.
Yeah, but you don't actually staple it into this.
Yes, you staple these. You staple this in. That's
Wait, now,
how it
into this
stays
would?
up. Into the rafters.
Oh,
I
in
mean,
a raft? That
sorry,
represents a
yeah,
rafter.
sorry. Yes.
I get it.
So anyway, that's how it should be. Some people do it this way. The problem is it may wrinkle.
And it also compresses a little bit,
Yeah,
right?
it compresses a little bit more. It may wrinkle. It's easier to tear when you staple. If you do it this way,
Right,
you've
anything
got
with
a
a
nice.
crease
I
with
mean,
it,
yeah.
there.
See, I mean, there's no wrinkles.
Right, got it.
You know, if you do it right, and then the other one goes over. So you basically got a double,
a double
seal.
staple. Double staple.
So,
And so this fits between boards that run in the roof, and I'm going to
right.
point
yeah,
that out
those are
right
the-
here.
Those are called the rafters.
Rafter boards that run up and support the roof beam boards. They're like beams that support the roofing material.
Right.
So you you basically cut the material so that Brandon can install it.
Right. To whatever length he needs. And they do have different, R factors, they have different widths. It all depends on what you're doing. Like
R21 is more or less insulatory than 19.
Oh, more. The higher the number, the better it is. Now see, you can only go so far with a 2x6.
Right.
So we have basically...
So if this was a 2x8, you could use even thicker material.
Yes. Yeah, and they go way up. I mean, they have that stuff that's like nearly a foot thick.
And probably for large construction projects.
Yeah, stuff like that. It depends on what you're doing. And then you have the blow-in stuff, usually for attic areas where you're not going to be crawling
Health-wise,
around.
it's the blow-in stuff that's the bigger problem. You should wear a mask.
Anytime you should be wearing a mask.
Right. I've had coughing a little bit up here now because there's particulate.
It depends, to be on the safe side, a dust mask. If you're doing it in the heat of the day, I forgot what the exact specs are, but like every half hour to an hour max, take the mask off, drink some water, because you get heat exhaustion. That's the problem with wearing these masks, any kind of mask, unless it's safe.
Because a lot of our heat comes out of our body with the breath.
Yes, and you're breathing it right back in. So,
Okay, got that.
So,
we're checking the temperature at the table now. It's 85 degrees. And you know what? I think that's at least 7 degrees cooler than it was yesterday about the same time of day.
Yeah,
so we're gonna.
It's 90 plus outside.
Yes, 92 plus. What I will do though is I'm gonna we'll lay it on somewhere at about the same height, and when we're all done with the project, we'll make one more check on the temperature.
There you go. Okay.
So it looks like everything's going pretty good.
Yep.
Excellent. Lee, we're wrapping up in about an hour, right?
Yep.
Okay. And it's 95 degrees outside.
At least.
It's a little windy.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was windy yesterday when I read the interior temperature, but it was 95 when it was 92 out. Let's see what it is now.
In here,
88 degrees.
so you're saying it's at least 3 degrees cooler?
7.
Or 7?
Because this was the peak time it was. So depending upon how much heat was being dragged away by the wind.
Right. And we also started late, so that wasn't fully insulated.
Right, so there was, and it's probably sunnier today than it was yesterday. So I would say that's a good indication that we basically took, 7 degrees off the upstairs temperature.
Yeah.
This place was intolerable yesterday.
Oh yeah, it'll probably work out to probably closer to 10, because now it will stay cooler
earlier in the morning.
And like I said, we've got both ends, and all the key thing is not to let air circulate. So that's why we used the grate stuff.
The sealer.
And you can get whatever you want. Don't let it get on your skin, but it's kind of like styrofoam when it's done.
Okay.
So if it gets anywhere, once it's dry, you can just cut it with a knife.
So every gap that you found is sealed now.
Everything that we could see.
Now there were some little normal portals I noticed.
Yeah, no. Those
remain the same.
We leave those alone.
Okay.
But otherwise, that's how you do that. Then real quick, for people that you're looking at
Materials
insulation.
Yeah.
When you grab insulation, grab it. Don't drag your hands into it, because it is a spun glass. So it will be itchy. Long sleeves are usually preferred or recommended, but
Are you having to do a cut now?
For
a rafter?
Simple. You put a board on the bottom, board on the top. Don't even hold the knife real hard or sharp. The important thing is cut your wings or backs first.
So really, the insulation material only is adhering to this.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah, and then when you open these up, like I showed earlier, and staple it. But the key is, if your knife gets too dull, you'll tear these things. If you tear them, it's really, really hard to keep it on a ceiling.
That's true.
Walls aren't so bad, but it also breaks your air barrier. If your air barrier gets broken, then you have insulation problems.
One thing I've noticed as a technologist, there's always the bottleneck, stickiest operation in any process. There's always the one thing you want to say, be especially careful of this.
Right.
Now healthcare, I'd say I notice you have the mask.
Yeah,
right?
you should have something. For me, it's not that big a deal. I'm not in that tight an area.
Right.
Brandon has got one of the better masks. especially in the heat. Make sure you stay hydrated, and get out for a while, because you can actually, like we said earlier, overheat yourself.
Now the thing about this, however, is do not damage this strip.
Oh yeah,
because the insulation will not adhere to the.
Yeah.
That's probably the most critical thing when it comes to handling this stuff.
And that's why we use the hand staplers and not a hammer stapler.
Oh, because you could easily swing past it and damage
if you nick that paper, and that's the other thing, if you puncture this paper, that also reduces the R factor, because it allows air to go in and out. So, yeah, you don't want the air to be a problem. Matter of fact, Alaska, they even go to the extreme of putting polyurethane over everything, so it basically makes it airtight.
Okay, so how much longer do you guys think you're going to be up here?
Half hour or so.
And then there's cleanup, of course, recovery. And then after that, we'll take a walking tour and basically point out what's been happening.
Yeah, double check we don't have any light sneaking in somewhere or anything like that, and feel for drafts, whatever.
And no dangling, damaged adhesion on the. Okay, very good.
And if you do damage it, you could use duct tape, or actually
two-sided
or cellophane tape. If you really had to, then that way it holds. But yeah, you don't want to damage the craft paper.
Well, we are in the final few minutes. And Brandon's in there double checking. He's not doing any more installation, right?
Nope, just making sure all the little
everything's tight.
Buttoned up nice and airtight as possible.
Uh-huh.
Buttoning it up now.
Okay. You ready for that pizza?
If you guys are, I'm always ready for pizza.
Who isn't? Let's go check the other side. Tell me what exactly you had to do, since this is precisely the same as the...
Just basically tuck it into the bird beaks or bird blocks down there. And then he's got to come over here and do some of the flaps still.
Oh, so there's a little more stapling's got to be done.
But you see, well, here's an example. I mean, you can see
a gap
where the gap is. So you can see where air could, transfer a little bit. So once he gets the flaps, the other little trick of the trade is the pink string there. That helps, because he's doing the sealing. He runs the string and tucks the insulation over the string and then staples it up. Otherwise, you're fighting it in your face all the time.
It's relaxing while you're trying to staple it.
So it helps. And
now, you mentioned something about the very ends. You want to shine a light on that and show what you had to do at the very ends?
Yeah, well, the gables.
Oh, yeah, those are 16 inch.
Yeah, those are 16 inch, which is fine. I mean, that's code.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got those at both ends, both sides.
Okay, so all four of the ends of the wings have also had material put in, but that makes perfectly good sense.
Yep.
And of course, you didn't do it right here along the wall because it's not exterior facing.
Yeah, well, which, you can do it or not do it.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to make that big
much
difference.
of a difference, sure.
So, I mean, if you really wanted to get technical,
No, let's not bother with it. Okay, so I can feel it right here. This is practically comfortable. It can't be much more than 85 degrees in here. And this is the south-facing gable, so that's fabulous.
No, it's actually more comfortable now than when we first started this morning. So,
absolutely, yeah. And we tried to start as early as possible to keep you guys comfortable.
And one of the other little tricks of the trade when dealing with fiberglass, if you happen to, when you deal with it, take a cold shower, rinse off with cold water first, then lather up still with cold water. If you still have a problem in an area where you rubbed into it real hard, then you can take tape. The stickier, the better.
Did you guys want to hit the shower here before you left?
Nah, I'm fine.
You gonna do that at home?
Yeah.
And okay, now this is that other material you were talking about.
Yeah, this is a type of blow in, and this is places where you can't really get the batten stuff in there, and
so basically, you have to you should wear gloves and stuff it into crevices, right?
Yeah,
that's all this is for.
Anything. Yeah, you just want to stop the air block. If there's air that's able to be transmitted, then it's going to be won't be as efficient.
Okay, so basically we had some material left over, so we decided to go ahead and add the remaining material to this interior wall of the south face to better insulate. So, let's wrap it. Lee, how's the project turned out as far as you're concerned?
Pretty good. And if you're happy, I'm happy. So
Yeah, I'm happy.
very, very big change in the temperature difference.
I think so too. Despite the fact we got a lot of wind out there right now, I still think the temperature is significantly cooler.
Yeah.
And we've just been cleaning up. Most of the stuff's out of here now. I did mop the floor with a wet mop to get any remaining fiberglass particulate up off the floor. So as far as you're concerned, we're in a wrap.
Yeah.
It's looking good.
So, yep.
Okay, and Brandon's about to emerge from our man cave.
Yeah, just cleaning up the last little
Hey,
bits.
just picking up some of the loose items here. I'll take that off your hand. You come on out and smile for the camera. And give us your impressions of the project. Here, we'll put that.
I very much enjoyed it. It was a good project, and you know, it's nice having an actual space on the ground to walk on instead of having rafters.
Oh, right.
Having to walk on rafters is a lot of fun when you're doing stuff like this. So yeah, it was.
And the ice worked pretty good with the
The
fan.
ice and the fan worked wonderfully.
Yeah, that was a little improvisation we pulled together. Put the fan, we put the ice in front of it.
Yeah, because it really gets a little roasty in there, but it's a lot better now than it was before. I can actually stay in here and not die.
Well, tomorrow I'm going to do another temperature check. That'll be the final entry in this project to see what the conditions are outside and in. And I suspect this is going to benefit the downstairs quite a bit too.
Oh yeah, your whole house is definitely going to end up feeling
That's
this.
fabulous. That's fabulous. Well, I really appreciate your efforts. It's great.
It's been great meeting you.
Yeah, I know. Brandon volunteered for this project. He's not getting a cent.
I just love doing it so much.
Yeah.
Insulation is just my passion.
Insulation. But you do other things besides insulation.
Oh, construction work.
General construction?
Farm hands.
Could you build a house from scratch if you had to?
For myself.
Yeah.